Another approach, and this is the approach that I favor most, is dynamical systems theory. And McGarry nicely showed how this could be translated into football. Here you see couplings between players. So each player is connected to each player. And these interactions can also be between players of different teams. And these interactions can be formed and broken throughout the match. So this is quite dynamic. And this, the same thing we can do at team level, but I'll come to that next. So at the individual level, and this is a very nice paper recently by Portuguese, Pedro Passos. Here he showed that two individual players synchronize their actions, or the opposite, don't synchronize their actions. Whereas I want to highlight this particular graph. Here you can see attacker 1, distance to the try line, and here attacker 2, the distance to the try line. And then you see they are nicely coupled. Whereas the same attacker with a different attacker from the same team, this coupling is less compared to that one. And when we now go to this graph, we see that attackers either do the opposite, preferably, or do exactly the same. And this is based on the distance between the players, between the attackers, in a attacker-attacker diet. And you can do similar things for attacker-defender diets. This is actually research that we did in Groningen, where we looked at whether an attacker was taking initiative in passing the defender. And we cross-correlated the acceleration profiles of attacker and defender for different kinds of attacks and goal attempts, resulting in a goal or a goal attempt. And then you see in a 1-versus-1 situation, for both goals and goal attempts, that the attacker always has the initiative. He has to, because he has to pass the defender. Whereas in a regular attack, this is slightly decreased. In a counter-attack, this is even more decreased. And a shot from distance, the attacker doesn't have to pass the defender. He can curl the ball around him. So this nicely shows that using position data for these kinds of analyses are very useful. In the same way, we can think of interactions between teams. Here we see two small-sided games, 4 against 4. And I've calculated centroid measures. And the centroid is the average position of the outfield players of one team. And this, when you combine the positions of the centroids, then you get a nicely, you get to see the rhythmic flow of attacking and defending. And that's what I've depicted here. Here you see the two centroids moving in the longitudinal direction of the field. And you see they are quite nicely coupled or correlated, actually. But this is just measurement. You want to advance this, and that's what we did. We looked at when goals are scored. And this is, for example, here you see the length of the pitch, the two centroid positions, where the black team recovers the ball and goes up the field. And prior to the goal is scored, they actually overtake the defending team, because they seem to move more quickly towards the opponent's goal in comparison with the defending team. So goals and goal scoring opportunities tend to have a specific pattern. And earlier this morning I presented some research that we did following up on this data, and I won't go into that now, but I'm happy to explain afterwards. So what we've seen is that there are 3 different approaches, all very valuable, but they are not really acting together yet. So therefore, I would advocate an integrated approach where we combine these 3 approaches in understanding tactics. Which would mean that we have to establish critical performance indicators that have a clear practical application, but is also grounded in theory. And I think that is what's lacking at the moment. And we have to make sure that everybody cooperates. Coaches, sports scientists, statisticians, etc. And there is only one reason for that, because it benefits everybody involved. And additionally, it closes the gap between sports science and practice. And in Holland, we are taking a specific approach to this, where we create these so-called golden triangles, in which companies are involved, sports is involved, and universities are involved. They create a performance team, so the company provides software programmers, for example. The university, the sports scientists, and the coaches come from the clubs. And we all work together on a daily basis, sit next to each other, talk to each other. I think that's crucial. And in this particular project in which I'm involved, we use a tracking system which is mounted near the roof of the stadium, and we collect position data every match. And the aim is to develop tactical support tools for the coach that the sports scientists can use for scientific research. And in addition, of course, as a scientist, we also have our more fundamental questions. So just to give an example, I've shown the attacker-attacker diet in rugby. We can look at the optimal interpersonal distance between the center backs of this team or any other team, and try to find out which interpersonal distance facilitates the attacker to pass through and to go on and maybe score a goal. So that's the scientific side of things, whereas maybe the coach just wants to monitor the distance.